Momentum is a show about movement. Movement through space, movement in time. We invited 10 super creative people to intervene, to each pick a work of art in the exhibition and respond to it in his or her own way.
We're doing the exhibition Momentum to celebrate our 45th anniversary year, to kick off the anniversary year celebration. It's a way of looking at our permanent collection completely new and very differently. The idea of the exhibition is embedded with surprises, not just for our audiences, but for us as well.
In the spirit of the San Jose Museum of Art's 45th anniversary, I was considering the ideas of time passage and movement and how they would work together in an exhibition. I tried to choose work that shows the breadth and depth of our collecting interests and also the types of media that we have. There are photographs, sculpture, painting, as well as new media, and pieces that have not been shown before.
Usually, we're really focused on highlighting the intentions of the artist in making a work and connecting our audiences to the artist's intentions with a work of art. In this case, we added an intermediary step in this value chain, and we invited artists from vastly different disciplines to respond to artworks in the permanent collection in any way they wanted.
It was interesting to get a group of creatives together that weren't necessarily straight ahead artistic media workers. So we don't, if you notice, we don't have a professional painter or a professional sculptor on the list.
Well, it was exciting. I mean, the whole idea was pretty exciting.
It was really fun for me to meet the artist over coffee and talk with him about our parallel paths.
The first step for me was to just find something that spoke to me. I just looked for what moved me.
And before I was looking, I had decided that I needed to have a really strong and different response to a piece, and that would be my piece.
There was something about Fred Spratt's piece that to me seemed challenging in a way that I saw it as an opportunity to perhaps do an intervention with myself as well.
So the word intervention is sort of terrifying to me. So when I heard this word, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to respond to this?
So this word intervention was used in the proposal, and I was immediately taken by it. I really liked the idea of it suggesting that we were being a little bit between the art on the wall and the visitors. We were like active visitors.
Generally, what happens with my work is I go through the world and I look at the whole world as this potential for me to cover with knitting. So when you said we'd like you to pick a piece and do an intervention, I thought, well, I'm definitely not going to cover that piece with knitting.
I just thought of intervening as an opportunity to engage with something. I didn't just want to comment on his piece. I really did want to engage with it.
Now, I'm a stand-up comedian and a storyteller, but primarily I deal with funny. So it took a lot of courage for the artist of Infoglut to allow a stand-up comedian to respond to the piece.
I never felt anything but care for the piece. It was inspiration was the word that I chose to use to react to her piece.
I had the benefit midway through the process of getting an email from the artist himself, which I wasn't expecting, though I was anxious about getting it. So I didn't think it was going to happen, but my sense was that if it happened, it would not be a good thing. But he had heard some of the music that musicians were posting online, and he said that he felt that quite a bit of it fit.
As far as perhaps the most surprising thing, I think that we would rarely paint a background for a work of art and install a painting on another artist's background. It's just very different from what we would do unless it was an installation.
I felt that if I did something that was adjacent to it, especially since I also am a 2D artist, it wouldn't truly be an intervention. I wanted to have our works be combined to make something else.
Well, in some sense, my piece does come between Calder and the audience initially. It's very carefully placed in such a way that the first thing you see is the screen and the projected shadows, not the Calder piece itself. And so in that sense, it's an intervention because it is between Calder and the viewer initially.
So there are liberties taken in many different ways, but we trusted in the fact that people who were also artists in and of themselves would connect with the work in a really significant, personally meaningful, and creative way. And the results are surprising us all as we keep seeing these works of art in very, very different perspectives.
In many ways, I felt as though I was collaborating with the artist. I collaborated with a composer. I collaborated with film and painting and choreography.
Another common phrase that you hear a lot is, oh, the pieces were in dialogue with each other. That I didn't want there necessarily to be a sense that they were talking to each other, but I wanted it to be very clear that that piece was responding to the piece.
You know, it's one of those really interesting contrasts to see something that's, you know, very round and kind of very high tech, and then there's this thing that's got a black square behind it, and it's got this sort of low-tech universal feeling of a bicycle wheel, which is so very accessible to people.
I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, this is a big question and experiment for me. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, what that energy is going to feel like as those two pieces are crossing paths, but I'm excited for that energy.
What intervention meant to me began initially as, you know, some kind of idea about disrupting or interrupting the piece. But what it ended up really being was disrupting my own process and changing the way I look at writing poetry.
It was sort of shocking. It opened up, it catalyzed a whole complete new series of work for me.
I felt that it was perhaps a gift from the artist allowing me the opportunity to have that experience.
We encourage audiences to similarly invest time, thoughtfulness, and their own awareness in looking at both the original work of art and the work of art that's a response to that. So it's a complete chain reaction, and the visitor's response completes the chain.
Now it's your turn. Momentum, an experiment in the unexpected.